Okay, so I was actually very excited about this topic, but before we jump in, it's not such a well-known story with Steve Jobs. He called the founding father of Google Plus. His name was Vic Gundotra, right? So Vic Gundotra. Vic Gundotra. Yeah, as a Google Plus was like a thing. It's not really so much a thing now. It was one of their kind of like a Facebook type of thing, social media. It's not as popular. But anyway, so he was the founder of that. And so Steve Jobs, we know, is the CEO of Apple. And he called this guy Vic Gundotra. It was a Sunday. So Vic Gundotra was a Christian. He was in shul, synagogue, and he missed the call from Steve Jobs. And afterwards, he looks at his phone. He calls back Steve Jobs and says, he's like looking at the phone, and it's a text message from Steve Jobs. Actually, it wasn't a text. It was a voicemail saying, urgent matter to discuss, call me ASAP. So when the CEO of Apple calls and leaves that message, you're like, even though he was in synagogue, he felt bad they didn't answer the phone. And Steve Jobs actually told him.
You think he was in church, right?
Yeah. When I say synagogue, yes.
Just say Kosher place.
He was in church. Yeah, yes, he was in church. And so he called him back, and he said, "I'm so sorry. I was in church. I couldn't answer." So Steve Jobs said, "Unless the caller ID said God, you should never answer." Which I thought was ironic, because why would God call during services? I only thought of that after. But the point was, Steve Jobs said something. What was the urgent matter that he needed to discuss? He noticed that the way the color of the Google logo, it's like a blue G and then a red O, I think, and then a yellow O. So, right, the Google logo is a couple of colors. So the urgent matter that Steve Jobs needed to discuss was that the way it was projecting on his screen was the yellow O in Google was the wrong color gradient. It was like the wrong hue of yellow. And that was the urgent matter. And so they bring this story as an insight into what a true leader is. A true leader, you would think, contrary to popular, you would think a true leader doesn't care about those small little things. But a real leader of a company, he knows the details. It bothers him when the yellow O in Google, the gradient is slightly off. That makes a difference to him. That matters to him. It stands out to him. He's able to point that out. And it's a good. I think it's a good insight into, yeah.
What is the symbol for?
That is. Oh, you thought that was the yellow O?
No,
what is it? Oh, what's the
is.
symbol? It's a very modern approach to conversation analysis and like.
With a balloon and a cloud. That's
not a balloon. It's a what do you call it when
text bubble.
Text bubble.
Well,
thought
I think
bubble.
of it differently. Someone's head is in the clouds.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't like that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Oh, you're not supposed to agree with that. I said.
No, I just simply wondering.
Got it. Okay, good. Anyway, so that's a true leader cares about even the details. And a lot of times, some people ask, like, boys in high school, well, why do I have to tie my, do the right shoe before the left and the left before the, like, why do all these small thing matters and saying brachos? Because a true leader cares about details. Hashem, who is the ultimate leader, he cares about the details that we do. So that's sort of going to connect. So there's this is a lot of words in number one. But what I did here was there's really two passages that I wanted to kind of focus on there, and it's all about the staff. So the first one was in last week's Parsha, Parsha Shmos Perek Daled, and that's where Moshe appears by the sneh, and Hashem says, "You're going to take the staff," and he threw it down, and it turned into a snake. So we know that story. The second passage is in this week's Parsha on the left side. That's in Perek Zayin, Psukim Ches through Tes Vav. And that's when Hashem is talking to Moshe and Aaron and telling, how are you going to convince the Paro and the Egyptians to that I mean business? So the first passage is, how am I going to convince the Jewish people? And the second passage is, how am I going to convince Paro? And they're very similar in the fact that in both storylines, the staff, the matzah, turns into a snake. So in the first one, it actually says a nachash, a snake. In the second passage, in this week's parsha, when you're going to perform it in front of Paro and his people, his necromancers, his chartum, his people, it's going to appear as a tanin. So there's different commentaries. Is it like going back to the Taninim Hagadolim? Is it talking about some type of sea creature? It's actually brought down in the Siddur Yavitz that the tanin refers to a crocodile. He uses that word. I believe it's the Malbim who says something about a nachash of the yam, a sea of like a sea snake. Whether that means an actual sea snake or maybe he's actually referring to a crocodile. But other commentaries say it is just another word for a snake. So using that, they're both in both episodes. There was a staff that turned into a snake. And then I bolded it, the very last pasuk, Leichel Paro baboker, go to Paro in the morning. Hine yotze hamayim v'nitzafta lekraso al sefasa yar. Paro's going to be there. And we'll get to that at the end, but Paro was using the bathroom. V'hamata asher nepach lenachash tikach b'yadecha. And these are the crucial words. And the staff, which turned into a snake, take in your hand. Hashem is talking to Moshe at this point. The staff which turned into a snake, take in your hand. So we don't have to go through all of them in detail, but we could go through them quickly. If you look at number 2, that's the Birkas Asher. If you look at number 3, the Ksav v'Kabbalah. If you look at number 4, the Emek Davar. If you look at number 5, the Malbim. If you look at number 6, the Medrash Lekach Tov. I didn't even include on here the Kliyakar. All of them are of the same understanding that when Hashem says, V'hamata asher nepach lenachash, the staff which turned into a snake, well, so which episode is he referring to? Is he referring to Aaron's staff, which turned into a snake and then turned back into a staff and then swallowed the snakes? Or is he referring back to the episode in last week's parsha when it initially, when Hashem appeared to Moshe through the sneh and said, throw down your staff, and it appeared and it turned into a snake. What's it referring to? All of these commentaries say it's going back to the staff of Moshe from the first passage. It's not talking about here. So that's very nice. If you look in the Sforno, actually, so he already kind of alludes to the fact that maybe this staff, V'hamata shernepach lenachash, is actually referring to the staff that we were just talking about in this passage. The staff that Aaron threw down and swallowed, it turned into a snake, then turned back into a staff, and then swallowed the staffs. Where am I getting that from? Because he says, Nepach lenachash, it turned into a snake, gam b'tnuaso. I put in the English here, not only in appearance, but also in its movements. As it says in Pasuk 12, which is just a few pasukim before that, vayivla, it swallowed. So it sounds like the Sforno's understanding that it's actually referring to the staff in this passage. That's one thing, but it's not even conclusive. But what is conclusive is the next one. In footnote 8, the Medrash in Shmos Rabbah, Perak Chavav, which is not in this week's parsha, but that Medrash in Chavav, Gimel, is actually in Parshas Bishalach. And he says something amazing. Davar Acher, Umata Elokim Biyadi. The Medrash points out that in different places we refer to the Mata as the Mata Elokim, the staff of God. Sometimes we refer to it like in this passage, Zion Yud Beis, Mata Aaron, the staff of Aaron, and sometimes we refer to it as the staff of Moshe. Which one is it? Are they 3 different staffs? Are they all the same? According to those previous opinions from 2 to 6, the Birkas Asher, etc., they're all understanding that there's actually different staffs over here. Hence, when Hashem says the Hamata Asher Nepach lenachash, the staff which turned into a snake, he's going back to Moshe's staff from last week's parsha, from the Sneh episode. But according to the Medrash, it's one mata. When Aaron used it to perform his miracle, and when it swallowed the staffs of Paro, it was called by his name, Mata Aaron. And uvizman asisi ani, when Moshe did it and he performed miracles, like by the passage with the sneh, and it turned into a snake, then it was called the staff of Moshe. Uvizman shakadosh baruch hu osanisim, and when Hashem used the staff, Nikra al Shmo, then it was called on his name, hence it says Umata Elikim. According to this Medrash, there was one staff, and I didn't include it in here, but the Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer says something amazing. He says that the staff of Moshe Rabbeinu and the staff of Aaron, it was all the same. It was all, just like this Medrash, it was one staff, and it wasn't just Moshe and it wasn't just Aaron. the staff is one of the items on the list in Pirkei Avos that was the items created before on Ben Ishmashos Erev Shabbos. The staff is one of them, and that same staff was used by Adam HaRishon. That staff was then given to Chanoch. It was then given to Noach. It was given to Shem. It was then given to Avram, and then it was given to Yitzchak, and then it was given to Yaakov. Then it was sent down through Yosef. What happened after that? Yosef died in Egypt, and then where did Yosef die? In Egypt, and the Egyptians took it. It was in the house of Paro, and one of the workers, one of the advisors of Paro, we know was Yisro. And Yisro, he saw this staff, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I want this staff." Yisro took the staff. He put it in his garden in Midian, where he lived. And the staff was stuck there. This is according to the Pirkei de Rebbe Lezer. It was stuck there. I actually remember years ago there was a Power Rangers movie, and there was a sword that was like stuck in the ground, and nobody had the strength to like pull it out. That was the same.
It's a sword in the stone.
It was a sword.
What stuck in the ground?
A sword. There was a sword stuck in the ground. What?
Oh, you just ate all of us.
Why? I said Power Rangers is.
I know, but the story was around way before Power Rangers.
Got it. Anyways, by the way, that happens to be a funny story with the Power Rangers. Right after I was watching it with my older brother, Rafi, and right after that movie, I just was so inspired from that movie. I like just kicked him so hard. And I remember my grandmother was there because it was a fighting. And it just shows you what watching that fighting can do. It really did influence me. I punched him. My grandmother was so upset because we were at her house when that happened. But there was a sword there that no one could take out until finally one person came. And so it happened here with Yisro. There was this staff that was passed down from generation to generation. And all of a sudden there was a man by the name of Moshe who came, and he was the one. He didn't even have to do anything. He mentioned a couple of words, because on the staff there was written, I think, the names of Hashem, and there was written, according to some, Ditzach Hadash Ve'achav, the names of the Malkos were written on there. And Moshe was able to say a couple things, and he was able to take the staff very easily. And whoever got the staff, Yisro decided that's who's going to get Tzipora, that's who's going to get my daughter. And that's based according to the Pirkei de Rebbe Lezer. That's how Moshe was zoche to marrying the daughter of Yisro, because he was the one who was able to take this staff. So this is not just a simple staff. According to this, we're talking about the staff that was passed down from generation to generation.
This is also the one that was used for the Makos.
So according to this, it would be the same staff that was used for the Makos.
And it was in the movie with Charlton Heston.
And it was in the movie, yeah. It was passed, exactly. I don't know how they got it. I guess they got it after Moshe. Yeah, and it's not only that, but it's even further. Where's that staff now? The Power Rangers got it at some point. It's brought down to the Yalkut Shimoni. It brings down that David HaMelech got it. Subsequently, every king of the Jewish people got it until the destruction of the temple, and Mashiach is going to ultimately come back with that staff. So it's going to make its full circle. But based on this idea that we're talking about one staff, I have a fundamental question. And that is, now going back to that pasuk, V'hamata asher nepach lenachash tikach b'yadecha. Hashem says, the staff, I love this question. V'hamata asher nepach lenachash tikach b'yadecha. The staff which turned into a snake, take in your hand. Now, there was one thing that every member of the Paro's people was able to do. And that was that. They were able to turn the staffs into snakes, right? But there was one thing that stuck out, which was the staff when Aaron had it, where it turned back into a staff and swallowed up the rest of the staffs. That was something that was no one was able to do that feat. So, what's the bigger chiddush? Is it V'amata asher nepach lenachash? Was that the chiddush? The staff. Which staff are we talking about? Oh, the staff that turned into a snake. That's the one taking your hand. Shouldn't Hashem have said the staff which swallowed the other staffs? Take that staff in your hand. V'hamata asher nivla samatos, whatever the lashon would be. That's the staff you should take in your hand.
Because that was a more unique quality.
Exactly. It was
so
a
why
much.
Would you call it by this thing that was fairly common.
Yeah, that was so. Yeah, exactly. Paro and his people, they were all able to turn their staffs into snakes. Why is that? That's the idea. That's the question. And I was thinking along the lines of one of the answers given. maybe it's the Maral, I don't remember what the answer is. The question by Hanukkah of the Beis Alevi is, why do we celebrate for 8 days if it only lasted? What about the first day? That wasn't a miracle. So one of the Yesodistic answers that are given is that no, because nature is a miracle, right? Don't think that, just the fact that it lasted for 1 day, that's not a miracle. That is a miracle. Haraya, the Gemara in Tainis Daf Chav Hey, if you look in number 9, this really says it best. Chad Bei Shemshi Chazi Labarti Dava Hatziva. This is by Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, who was Malumad Benisim. Miracles would happen to him, and one Friday, it was Friday evening, and his daughter, he noticed, was depressed. She was atziva, she was sad. Amar la, he said to her, Biti, my daughter, Amai Tzavta, why are you sad? Why are you depressed? Why are you down? Amar le, she said to her father, Kli shal chaymetz nischalifli, but kli shal shemen, vidlachli mimenu or l'Shabbos. I made a huge mistake. Instead of lighting the Shabbos candles with shemen, with oil, which burns beautifully, I lit the Shabbos candles with vinegar, which lights poorly. And she was all depressed and sad. The light's going to go out. It's going to be bad. That's why she was depressed. Amar Allah. And Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa said, Biti, my daughter, Mayach baslach. What's going on? Why do you care? Misha Amar l'shemen v'yadok. The same the same God who says oil should be a kindling source, that oil should light. Hu Yomar, he'll also say lachamitz v'yidlok. He'll say that vinegar should light. And the idea of this story is that, we know based on nature, vinegar doesn't normally light. But the fact that shemen lights, that's also a miracle. That's also, and the same God who said oil should light, he'll say that vinegar should light. So that's this idea of Hanukkah as well, that one day is also a miracle. And perhaps that can answer the question, because it's very easy to remember and have a Karsa Tov for the things that are unique and the things that are special and the things and the things that stand out. It's not so much of a chiddush to appreciate those things, to acknowledge them, and to remember them. But v'amata shernepach lenachash, right? Are you going to remember that? Or is the fact that all of the other necromancers, the fact that they were able to accomplish the same thing, is that going to override and kind of make you ignore and not remember that nace that happened to you? But that was also an incredible nace. And just because everyone else was able to do it doesn't detract from the nace. And perhaps Hashem was telling Moshe and us by reading the Torah, it was the simpler thing. It was the one that everyone was able to do. But oftentimes it's those things that if it's the mundane, it's the regular, it's the simple things, it's the nature, it's the natural things that we have to realize those two are also special, and those two are also miraculous nonetheless. And we'll just end off. I thought it was interesting the Mizrahi on this pasuk, just few words before the Torah says V'amata shenepach lenachash, it talks about Paro. We mentioned how he went out in the morning to the Nile to use the facilities, to use the bathroom, and the Mizrahi points here out from the Medrash that he was Lefi shehaya osa rasha mishtabeach the Omer. He would say shehu alayha. He said he was a god. And he didn't need to use the bathroom. He wouldn't need to use the bathroom. That's why he woke up in the morning, people wouldn't see him. So I was thinking about this. I thought it was so interesting. Like, his way of demonstrating that he was like a god was the fact that he did not need to use the bathroom. The bathroom is like the most human type of thing. And I quoted here in number 11 the Ramah, who talks about the bracha of Asher Yatzar. Well, the Shulchan Aruch is talking about it, and the Ramah mentions Yish lefarish shemaflila asos. We say Asher Yatz every time we use the bathroom. Shemaflila asos. It's a pella. B'mashe shoyme ruach adam bekirbo v'kosher davar ruchani b'davar gashmi. It's mamish a pella. The fact that we can have a neshama in a guf, and the fact that we're able to. Paro viewed it as a way of, he's hiding his humanity, and it shows he's unlike a god, so he didn't want to do that. But we kind of look at it the different. We embrace our humanity and see God within that, and we could bring up the mundane and be able to appreciate the fact that we are humans, and I can house a ruach, I can house a neshama. So these ideas kind of go hand in hand. The fact that teaching us this idea that the mundane, realize that the simple things, the regular, the mundane, the base, those things we shouldn't take for granted. And maybe, just maybe, and that's number 12. There's the pasuk says, "V'asar l'chodesh shvi." This is a pasuk obviously talking about Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is the one day of the year where, we say we're like Malachim, but it's brought down that we're really greater than. We realize that we're even greater than Malachim. We're humans, and on Yom Kippur we read about the Arayas, right? We talk about the Kodesh HaKodashim, yet we read about the lowest of the low. And this is a Jew. We have a guf and we embrace our humanity, but we realize that we're also housing a neshama, and we can elevate that base. We can elevate that regular. We can elevate that humanity. So maybe it's not a coincidence. The one pasuk there's only 2 pasukim in the Torah that have the gematria 5035, and that's what we quoted above. Leichel paro baboker hine yotze hamayma v'nitzavta lekraso al sfas hayar v'amata shnepach l'nachash tikach biyadecha 5035, and the pasuk of Yom Kippur, that's also 5035. So Hashem should give us the.
You figured that out?
Not through numbers. I have different ways of finding it, but yeah. I was plugging in our pasuk because I was trying to see if there was some connection, and I found that there was only one other in the whole Torah, and that was the pasuk relating to that literally is mentioning. It talks about Yom Kippur, and I was thinking maybe these ideas can be related.
Just an observation. I also saw the film The 10 Commandments. Actually, it was on a black and white television. So the contrast,
before my time.
But the point I want to say is, you had the staff that Moshe Rabbeinu had that turned white, because that's the color. That's color. Black and white television. It was white, and the magicians were totally black and all that. But what was interesting was the fact you had 2 different forces that were the representation of a shaman versus the other side that was fighting. It was spectacular.
Wow.
Eating it up, because who would know? I've never been to something where one snake ate up another.
Right.
We don't get into that. But you never know. That was spectacular in itself. So that's a minor thing to point. It was not just some ordinary.
Right. Wow. Okay,
and so you're saying Pasuk Tesvav, the one in bold, is the same as.
Yeah, they're the only 2 pasukim in the whole Torah that.
And the connection you were proposing was that they're both expressing. The pasuk Tesvav is saying, don't think that the only thing that is capable of showing how great Hashem is in something more stunning, even in the mundane,
exactly,
the simple, so to speak, miracle is an incredible expression of God. That's the same idea that it's saying in the pasuk from Yom Kippur, where that we are experiencing that day in by elevating our humanity. Is that
exactly? You said it better than me. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That was the connection that I was trying to propose. Exactly. Yeah, because Yom Kippur, where we're the lofty, is really an expression. Humans, we use the facilities. We're humans, and we embrace that. Yet we can be even greater than Malachim. That day that we can attain that, and we believe we're there, is Yom Kippur. So it's like the ultimate expression of lifting up the mundane.
And it seems to me even like Yom Kippur itself, as much as we are, so to speak, afflicting ourselves. I don't think anybody would say that's like the hardest thing I've ever had to do, right?
Right.
Okay, I didn't eat and drink, and sometimes it's harder than others, and I have to rally myself, or I didn't wear, I had to wear Crocs. It's like I'm saying, it's considered an affliction, but it's not it's not the most overwhelming thing we could think of that would be the hardest thing for us to do. But I'm just wondering if it's drawing out the same idea that even the simple things that we refrain from have an incredibly deep quality to them without being something that has to be, like we starved ourselves for a week.
Right.
Or lived outside and did something totally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, like the Yom Kippur, which is the pinnacle of the high holidays, we call it. So I was thinking, like, a lot of times you'll be thinking of a song, right? You'll hear the low part. Someone will be singing a low part, and you're like, "What song is that? I don't know what song." And they'll sing. All of a sudden, they'll go to the chorus, the high part, and you'll be like, you'll remember all of a sudden, "Oh, it's that song." So, like, you could view the high holidays like that as well, where sometimes in the darkness of the winter, and we're in the low part, and sometimes we forget the lofty levels that we've achieved during the high holidays, but there are times where we can always reflect on the high part, on the high holidays. There's times during Yom Kippur where we felt extremely close to Hashem, and even when we're in the low and we're not sure what's going on, we can kind of remember, hey, yeah, I was able to connect during those high moments during Ne'ilah, whenever it was. But that could be an idea as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would think that there's something, I don't want to negate what you're saying, but I would think that there's something to the fact that Hashem was the first to turn the staff into a snake. And so there's something to that. Like, everyone else were copycats. And I don't know if their version of magic was an actual miracle versus what Hashem's miracle was. So, right, there was no magic when Hashem did it. There was no smoke and mirrors or anything like that. And maybe the necromancers of Egypt were able to actually do magic. But ultimately, it was Hashem that is the unique, that is the miracle, that is the first time it happened. So I think it's validated, if I can be so bold to say, it's justified to say that, because that was...
You're justifying what Hashem's saying, that's pretty good.
Right.
No, yeah.
I started it, right?
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, take the staff that turned into a snake.
And you're saying, so you're really going also with those opinions that it's going back to that first miracle. The miracle with Moshe, or even this
all
one.
Of it. But the point is, it doesn't have to be that something mundane that everyone else was able to do, right? The point is that this is the original, and so that's why I'm saying
Got it. I hear that. Yeah, very good. I hear that.
Right, like he's saying, I started it. Like, right.
Right. Don't forget.
So somebody else came along and.
Right. Even though it would be easy almost to look over us and Hashem started it, but now look how they were all able to do it. I mean, I feel like it kind of would follow along. Therefore, actually, no, I'm not sure. I have to think about it. I hear what you're saying.
I didn't think it all the way through either, but
yeah.
That's why you're the president.
I'm also thinking about somewhere else in the later on, and I think it's in Sefer Bamidbar, when there was a plague going around, and Hashem told Moshe to lift up the staff, and it turns into a snake. That's a symbol of medicine and so forth. Does that have the same redeeming, or something like that? If you know what I'm talking about.
Or you're saying when everyone looked at the staff and got healed?
That's correct. I know it's hard looking for me, looking at a hideous animal, but at the same time, there wasn't much of a choice in that circumstance, because that's not the symbol of medicine. So is that the idea that was carried on?
It could be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And it also because it's well, that's why I'm just trying to see if there was a connection later on down the line.
Got it. Something to think about. Okay. Shkoyach.
Thank you so much for that.
Shkoyach.
Can I have another piece?
Yeah, of course. Take as much as you want. Please.
Yeah.
thank you.
Shkoyach. Thank you.
I just bumped elbows.
Elbows. Okay, good.
Okay, because that's the. Can I get that?
Yeah, sure.
Because that helps me. Because that's the one time.
Then I need to show you something on my study on the screen.